and I want to push this going forward next year. You're never going to get a better chance to try so many new things. All the sports and societies are available, fantastic, and I think everyone should take advantage of this. I feel I'm demonstrating my passion by being here today on my 20th birthday, so happy birthday to me. So first, a little bit about me. I currently play for 6 college A teams. I'm captain of the relegation avoiding pool team and the league winning frisbee team, both of which I'm quite proud about so far, and I also play for the darts, table tennis, cricket and badminton teams. I also play for Durham at darts and frisbee, so I think this shows how committed I am to sports and why I'd love to do this role and share my passion for sport with everyone else. I've also captained my men's cricket team at the age of 16, so I'm fully in there for organisational roles and all that sort of thing. I was also a FREP this year, another thing about me. So on society side of things, this year I've taken up growing the community. I've been involved in the sports and activity days so far, which has been a lot of fun. Last year I was in music society. Sadly I'm going to do a lot this year due to living out and time commitments, but next year living in, I plan to take that back up, get on with that again. So also living in, I think it's a massive benefit to being on the exec. I'm close to everything happens and I can communicate easily with all the other core exec people. So my ideas, I want to increase overall participation in sports and societies. This year, as we've heard earlier tonight, there's been a lot of new sports teams and new societies created. You've got Stormwalking, Random Acts of Kindness, and I intend to push this forward next year and we'll get a load of new creations again. So for freshers, I'm going to rerun taster sessions this year. I think it's something that didn't happen as well as it could have during Freshers Week. People could have been playing more sports and getting involved in more societies during that time. It's a key time. You've got a week of just getting involved with Durham and getting used to it, and that's something I'd like to bring back. I'll also distribute leaflets with the Freshers pack, telling what was going involved, and we get Joe's handbook out there. So as well as a pretty standard aim of running a lot of sports in the 3 weeks of nothing, my main thing I'm going to do, I'm going to organise a varsity with Collingwood. So we're going to get 1 day of sport. We'll have everything. We'll have sport. We'll have rugby, football, cricket, netball, every single sport. Hopefully we'll get everything going, and that'll all happen. I'm also going to push table tennis events, pool events, little things happen in the 3 weeks. I'm going to set up a Twitter page. This will be key for societies. They can advertise all their events, so everyone knows where to look for the right things. So I've also had the...
Hi, I'm Libby.
I'm Megan.
We're second years doing English and chemistry. We believe that we're perfect for the role of sports and societies reps for a number of reasons. For us, the role is not about being involved in every sport and society already that Grey has to offer, but rather ensuring the organisation and smooth running of every individual group. Working closely with Team Durham is also important for all college sport, something that I have already gained experience of as captain of mixed lacrosse this year. So why us? We have proven from our involvement in mixed lacrosse, cheerleading and barcom that we are dedicated and enthusiastic when it comes to Grey. At the end of last year, lacrosse had only about 5 members left, and now from our hard work it has 30 regular members. Having experience running one of the smaller groups in Grey, I'm keen to ensure that every group, no matter how high profile it is in college, gains the support it needs to get all the members possible.
Having been head girl and house captain at school, we both understand the commitment and organisation that a role like this requires. Living together and the fact that there are 2 of us means that we can efficiently deal with all emails and organising all events. 2 minds are better than 1. A big part of the role is organising the Freshers' Fair, the Sports and Societies Fair in Freshers' Week. We think that this needs a makeover. Weather dependent, we would like to move the fair outside where we can create a more fun and relaxed atmosphere, where people will stay for longer and therefore see more of what Grey has to offer. Holding outside prevents splitting the sports and societies into separate rooms. In doing this, we would also be able to alternate the larger clubs with the smaller clubs, separating tables so that everyone can see more of what Grey has to offer. We would also push clubs to have a walking rep instead of just the table reps, so that people hear more about the clubs they wouldn't initially consider. Generally, we think this would give a more busy and thriving feel to the event.
We're also keen to organise 5-a-side tournaments in a variety of sports during the time after exams. Considering how popular the touch rugby event was last summer, with over 100 people participating, we think this is something we can extend further. Even if it's just a casual event on Grey Lawn rather than down at Maiden Castle, like the table tennis tournament last summer, this is definitely something we want to use more of. Seeing new clubs this year, such as GCTT and FemSoc, thrive so quickly, we want to ensure that every new sport and society that's set up next year achieves the same success.
Last year, Flo and Joe suggested using Facebook alongside the odd email as the primary form of communication between the leaders of all sports and societies and also the wider Grey community. We would like to take this forward into next year, as I'm sure most people will admit they use Facebook a lot more than they use their Durham email. It would also be nice to use this as a medium in which we can celebrate big wins and also share upcoming events. If possible, during Freshers Week, we would also like to bring back the taster sessions, especially in the sports and societies that are new to the freshers. However, we understand that this is quite a difficult thing, seeing as it's a very busy time, and therefore we work quite closely with George and the new VP to ensure that it's possible.
Thank you. That's unfortunate. I can see them. Yes.
In 2013 and 2014, the Finance Committee decided that we should balance the composition of the account, which is the account that pays for sports and societies, whereas for 2015 we decided that we should support them financially by providing a subsidy from the JCR fund. How would you ensure that sports and societies are sufficiently supported financially?
First.
The microphone's behind you.
Well, we had discussed about the levy, which we read in your report, but we don't think that it's a good idea to have a blanket levy for all the sports and societies because it could discourage people from wanting to participate. We think we should leave that up to the captains of each sports society to decide, as some sport they like to do.
We think as long as the JCR are able to support the clubs financially, that's something that everyone will probably support in the future.
The microphone is working.
Okay, so just go. Yeah, so I'm not looking at accounts specifically, but having looked at the budgets for this year, I would think about I wouldn't necessarily charge some of the sports societies, but I think of some of them maybe encourage more participation to justify certain amounts of spending on different ones, and the ones that currently get less money, I'd try and look at reallocating a bit of money towards the ones that could deserve a bit more money. So yeah, I'd look at the budgets and think about it, basically.
Thank you. Mr. Question and answer. Are there any further questions? Yes, Mr. Richard.
I thought your predecessor did a pretty appalling job giving a balanced representation of sports society. He was quite clearly biased towards sport. How do you intend to balance this out?
Okay, so I would imagine that people view me in a similar light to Joe, in that I am massively into the sports side. I've taken effort this year to get more involved in societies, and I will be promoting this more next year. So I'll be setting up a Twitter page, and we'll get Facebook involved as well. And that will be something that I would like to. I'll give over like the account details to the sports and to the society leaders, and they can then publish everything. Hopefully we can make like a great JCR Twitter, which has hundreds of followers and hundreds of likes on Facebook, and that will get everyone more involved. And obviously you'll be sending out weekly emails. So say if firms don't have a meeting on a Tuesday, I'll publish that firms don't have a meeting every Tuesday, and then you try and get more people involved in things they want to be involved in.
I think between me and Megan, we represent sports and societies quite equally, given that cheerleading is a bit of a question mark whether it is a sport or a society. I know in the past people have discussed that within cheer, and then also Megan's on Barcon, which is also a society. But generally speaking, the way we want to organise the Freshers' Fair shows how we're representing it in a balanced way. We want to discourage having a sports and societies room separately to make sure that all the freshers are seeing everything rather than thinking, oh, I'm sporty, I'm only going to go into the sports room. That's why we want to alternate the tables, having sports society, and so on, so that you do see more, even if you think of yourself as orientated towards a certain set.
Questions? Yes, Amy.
So this year I know that sports like Frisbee have found difficulties with Mary's Field, and certainly basketball and netball with the new netball team coming in have found difficulties sharing the court, and the state of the court got really, really bad in Christmas with like moss, and it was gross. So what measures would you take to make sure that Grey was sharing the facilities adequately with other colleges and with themselves, and just maintain them, like the state of the court?
I think more publicity needs to go into the booking system of how you book to use the courts within Grey itself. I know from having booked tennis courts, that was something we were thinking could potentially go online, so you can already see what's been booked for what slots and things like that. But also from the sort of Marysville point of view, and obviously from Team Durham point of view, we'd work closely with Tom to make sure that all of that gets sorted, because I know from my personal experience with lacrosse, with obviously pitches at Christmas getting so bad, I know that's something that everyone struggles with, so I think we just maintain good communication to keep the upkeep as good as possible around the bad times of year.
Yeah, so I'd go along similar lines. I tried to make an online system for the things like for the tennis courts. And for Mary's Field, I was captain for this year. I had to liaise. It's done between the captaincy, liaise with other people. And so I would maybe try and get more people involved in like the similar conversation. So currently it's like me and Jack, who's the Mary's captain. But if you could find some sort of system of communicating with other colleges, sports and society leaders, and ask them who exactly wants to use it, because I know it's more than just us and Mary's Frisbee that use it. So I'd look to try and involve other colleges so that everyone knows exactly who's going to be training and where and when, because there's nothing worse than turning up on the field to find that half isn't used already.
Are there any further questions for our candidates? Cool.
Sometimes when FinanceCom are discussing budgets, they take into account JCR attendance in terms of allocating budgets for sports and societies. So do you think that this is useful? Would you push for it?
No, I'm definitely for this. I think if you're going to have a club that demands a lot of money for pitch fees, then they should be supporting JCR meetings, because I think what Liam was saying earlier, first we've had enough people to pass a motion, and if you don't enforce people to come down, then there's no way. Then honestly, there's no way there'd be less attendance. So I agree with that as well, and how that helps support fund and sports societies.
I think me and Libby are in complete agreement about that. It's important for the JCR attendance to be high, and if sports and societies want funding, they should be in attendance. Not much more similar, I think.
Last few questions. Are there any more for the candidates in front of you? Okay, well, thank you. Give a big round of applause.
You probably all know someone who's been through a tough time. Maybe you have yourself. Maybe it's your sister, your colleague, or someone in your class. I think the most important thing, if you know someone who's going through a tough time, is to be there for it. Let them know you're there for them if they need it, or if they want it, or if they feel it. And that's also why welfare is here, for everyone in college to know that there's always someone here if they want someone to talk to, or if they just want to chat, or if they have an issue or concern. I'm Malin, I'm a second year, I'm studying psychology, and I've learned so much from being on the welfare team this past year, and that's also why I'm running for female welfare officer. My intentions are definitely not to make any major changes, because I think the welfare team this year has done such an incredible job. And we also had some great feedback, but there's always room for some improvements. So here are my ideas. First, to engage with yourself. For some people it could be a big change moving out, and it could be difficult to adapt. This links on to my second idea, which is to reach out to more people by maybe having events in different locations, and also use different communication methods such as Facebook, and hopefully the new webpage will be up and go, so please that's useful tool as well. And third, organize training sessions and get guest speakers to speak about relevant issues related to students' well-being, such as how to deal with stress or anxiety, and so on. Through experience from being on the welfare team, I've learned how to deal and act in certain situations that I wouldn't have before. I know how the team works and how campaigns are run. And also from experience of volunteering with asylum seekers and working with young people with mental and physical disabilities from back home. I know the importance of people from different backgrounds, being non-judgmental, and being able to be an active listener. I understand that being the welfare officer is different. It requires more responsibilities than being on the welfare team. But yeah, I believe my previous experiences have prepared me for that, and that I'll learn a lot, as well as being able to make big decisions and stuff like that.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Firstly, I'd just like to apologise that I'm not here in person tonight. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ellie and I'm a second-year anthropologist, and I'm running for the opportunity to be your next female welfare officer. To be an anthropologist, you have to be non-judgmental and organised, and both of these skills are highly related to this role. As well as this, I'm an approachable, caring and reliable person. I'm dedicated to this role, so much to the extent that I even miss Barfest so I can have nightline training and gain skills in active listening. I believe that this position needs a candidate who is involved in every aspect of college life. I'm involved in the women's hockey team, the Toasty Bar committee, applicants and media committee, and I've even volunteered for Grey in the community. Not only do these activities express my passion for college, they also show that I have the ability to work in the team. This is important because I will be working within the welfare team, but also using leadership skills that I learned on a cadet leadership course to manage the team alongside the male welfare officer. Although I'm not currently a member of the welfare team, I do see this as a great advantage, as I can bring a fresh perspective to the team. The welfare team is improving year on year, and Will and Emmy have set a very hard barrier to follow. I believe that if I continue this work by further improving the role of how welfare is perceived, past misconceptions have been eliminated, and I want to continue the reinforcement that the welfare team is a signposting and listening service for all students at Grey. I will achieve this by ensuring high visibility and involvement of the team during Freshers Week, and repeat the integration of FREPs and the welfare team like occurred this year. As a FREP myself and an open day helper, I have had first-hand experience of how both these events work, and I have a comprehensive understanding of the expectations of my position during this time. I've also experienced in pastoral care from being a prefect at my school to looking after my corridor since Freshers Week. Throughout the year, I want to make campaigns bigger and better, and increasing publicity so that livers out are encouraged to get involved. Events could be more accessible by occurring throughout the city rather than just at college and having guest speakers invited. Aside from campaign weeks, I would like to run mini informal sessions to teach valuable skills such as first aid, and in light of recent events, the safest and easiest ways to look after drunk people. So to summarise, if you would like a spark of fresh energy, a caring, reliable and approachable person, then please vote for me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah. This one.
Okay. So this is somewhat of a rarity. We've never actually done this before, at least not in my time. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come into the crowd to people who have questions in order to make it fair for both of the candidates. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. So then, are there any questions for the candidates in front of us here today? Yes, Mr. Young.
One part of your role, not necessarily the largest part, but one part is about integrating the students. And how are you going to deal with the new media manager or publication officer, I believe, when you deal with students, when you send out campaigns?
Okay, Malin will answer first and then Ellie will.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, not many people, well, some people really knows, but not all of them. So I think using Facebook more as a communication to reach out to more people could be useful, and also, yeah, hopefully using the webpage later on, because I realize people in college, they get a lot of emails, and it's really easy that they miss an important email.
how are you going to work with the publications officer, the selected person who's going to be doing lots of that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, I guess first of all, just get in touch. And yeah, it's make sure you know there or the person's views, and yeah, I guess just yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ellie, did you hear the question?
No, this is not been now.
Okay, so you repeat the question. Type it in.
Or can you just repeat the question, Nathan?
Okay, so Nathan, if you would like to remind me of your question so that I don't put it kind of.
Yeah, how will they link with the media officer when they send out campaigns?
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah. Technology for you.
Is that okay? So with the media officer, I can talk to them about how they think are the best ways to get livers in and livers out with regards to the campaign. Due to each nature of the campaign being different, we could try different media to try and see what works better, like experiment a bit. But communication is key, so I think using all different types of platforms is a good idea.
Are there any further questions? Anyone, George, you have a question? No. So, okay. We shall take Mr. White first.
Okay, so being a welfare officer means you have to be, in my opinion only, super on it, very committed, very sort of dependable. Can you convince the room that you are that dependable person and that you are incredibly motivated to do the job?
Thank you. Once Nick answers the question, Ellie shall answer first.
Yeah, I think that I'm a very dependable person and motivated. Being available and approachable is very key to all of these. Having like the energy to motivate others, that's key to being part of a team and leadership. And yeah, dependable can be respect. That's throughout life really. That can be shown through organisation commitment to my hockey team and the Toasty Bar and all my other college activities.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've really enjoyed being part of welfare this past year, and through involving in different kind of volunteering earlier, I just know that if it's something you're really passionate about, I guess, and you enjoy doing it, it doesn't feel like work or anything. It's as much as I like to be there for other people, it also gives me a lot being able to be part of it.
Are there any further questions for the candidate?
Mr. Hockley.
As part of your role in Freshers Week, you have to be part of the senior management team. This often involves working with the Freps and the other welfare team members who sometimes find some of the situations you deal with quite hard. How would you manage these people and help them to be able to help their corridors or other freshers throughout the week?
Yeah, so I got to experience that last year with the freshers coming in and communicating and spending time with the Freps, and there is a lot of stressful times, but I think as long as they know that they can come to us and have someone just to, I don't know, just to like get it off their chest, that can be really helpful sometimes. And also just make sure they know that they know their limits. So if they need some time off, that's okay as well.
Is that question accurate? Just to check.
Being a welfare officer, you have to be part of Freshers Week, supporting team members. How we support them?
Often when they're faced with difficult circumstances which they may not be comfortable with.
you've got to support. You've got to support.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, yeah. You've got to support both the welfare team members and the prep team members as well. Supporting team members in circumstances where they're difficult. There's lots of training on that, and providing them that if you feel uncomfortable, like tell people, keeping the distance, like making sure it's appropriate, and excuse me, and making sure that you're there for them to talk to at all times, like acting, you're there for them just as much as you are for the freshers.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Well, exercise today.
So being on the welfare team is obviously about looking out for other people, but you can't really do that if you can't look out for yourself. How do you realise your own limits, and what do you do when you've reached your limits?
Okay, so Ellie will answer first.
Okay, I've spoken to several people about who've been in the role previously about how they look after themselves, and it's about noticing when you're stressed and things, and I've signed up hopefully to the emotional resilience program that's happening soon to get an understanding of, deeper understanding of, to recognise when I'm stressed. And looking after myself is making sure that I dedicate time for me when I can just have time to myself, relax, and then just get on with my work. Make sure that I still do the things that I'm passionate about, like playing hockey, and got time for that, as well as doing the things for the welfare team, just so that I'm looked after myself, and just making sure that the boundaries are appropriate for when and be able to say that, you know, I need time for myself now. And things.
Yes, Malin?
Well, I think that's why it's important that we have a male and a female welfare officer, so we can look after each other as well, because sometimes it's hard to actually realise that you need some time off. But I do think, as for me, next year I'm going to be living 5 minutes away from college, so that if I get to be the female welfare officer, it's easy for me to have some space for myself. I think sometimes if everything you're doing revolves around college, it can maybe get a bit too much. And just also being outdoors or being active sometimes helps as well.
Okay, last few questions then. So we will take Ellie and Mr. White, and then we'll go to yes, Ellie.
So as female welfare officer myself at the minute, one of the things that I find hardest is time management. So can you just give an example or demonstrate your time management skills and how they'll play into your role as female welfare officer if you were elected?
So I'm a person who likes to be involved in different things. So I have to manage my time, and I think sometimes I can be last minute, but that's something you have to learn from. And sometimes what I do is to just make myself deadlines and make myself set goals and just make sure that I stick with those.
Thank you. And would Ellie answer the question there?
I think it's important that you need to sit down when your time is how societies and sport down to where they fit into, and make a sort of timetable so that I know exactly what I can do and when I'm free and things. Time management is absolutely crucial, not just for you, but for the team as well, to ensure everything runs smoothly and things happen on time. Just making sure I think your timetable all fits in, and I think I'm quite good at time management as it is. because I juggle a lot of other commitments quite happily with 1 week.
Thank you. Last question. I'm falling about all over the place today.
Okay, right, we'll sit in.
The welfare team don't always get, in my eyes, and it's controversial, the recognition they deserve. How do you motivate a team to work under those conditions to make sure they do the best? Loads of recognition. You know, how do you manage your team to make sure that you can get the best out of them?
Do you mind just repeating that again? Just the last bit.
So,
how do you
motivate the team to do the best job they can do?
Manage and work with your team and motivate your team so to make sure you get the best out of them and to be the best that they can be.
Ellie, to answer first, yeah.
I think that if people believe that they're not getting recognition, that can be an issue. But I think from the outside, I'm from being a prep, I do think that they do get a lot of recognition. And I think PGM is a good time to highlight these events and campaign weeks. And I felt when I was in office that the team weren't getting enough recognition, I put on events so that I could celebrate the work they're doing, so they do feel important. And I think they know people do care about the work they do. And I think this is within understanding of what the nature of welfare is actually about. It can be expressed further and encourage more people to use it, which would be more beneficial and the team would feel better about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do think it's important to know that being on the welfare team is not actually about the recognition, but doing something you're passionate about and something you want to do, because it does take up time, so you have to be sure you want to do it before you commit to it. And also I think it helps if, the welfare, it is a team, and it's not like being the welfare officer, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the one who takes all the decisions. The welfare, the team members, they have a lot to say as well. If someone has a great idea, if they come up with it, I think that's just motivation in itself, really.
Great, thank you. We'll take one last question from
So when I was first on the welfare team, and in the years before that, there used to be a 24-hour phone, and that was stopped in the year that Fran and I were welfare officers, and it's been going for 2 years now on 9 till 9 or 9 till 7. If that was brought back and there was a possibility to do that, would you want to do that, or would you not, and why?
Well, I do think we have other organisations that are here as well. I think it's important to remember that the people on the welfare team are students as well, and that they have to take care of their limits. So I think, we have Nightline, which is open after 9. I think 7 till 9 is good as it is now, really. Just to make sure that, the team members, but it's something I know.
So if I take the opportunity back for the 24-hour phone, and I had the choice whether to take it or not, I think it would depend on how people actually perceive and use Nightline. Because at the moment, Nightline currently takes over the time between 9 and 7 when we're not actually on the phone. I think it would depend on how comfortable the team felt with being able to give up their time for the phone, and whether the phone would be used more because you'd be talking to someone from your own college, or people do prefer ringing the nightline and talking to people they don't know. I think it depends on the nature of the caller, and I know that we were the last welfare team to actually stop doing the 24-hour phone. We held on for it a long time, so I think because it worked quite well then, yeah, I think discussed quite heavily. It could be a good idea, but a lot of pros and cons would have to be weighed up, and a lot of thought gone into it about if we did start it again, it would have to be an effective service.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes all the questions for these candidates. Please could you...
Hello. Who am I? I'm Ed, I'm a third year, I'm studying PE, and I'm really passionate about welfare. I think it's potentially the most important thing college offers, and it's a real privilege to be able to offer that service to people. I've been on the team for a year now. It's been pretty fun. And as a result of that, seeing the ins and outs, I've honed my skills as welfare to a fine edge, and I've had a front row seat in seeing what the role entails. So yeah, I think I've done that. I've done pretty good on my time on the team, and I'd like to take that further. I've got a few ideas about what I want to do. I think it's mainly about continuity at the moment, not change. Welfare's already moving in the right direction, so I want this to stay the case. It's about small improvements, not kind of like changing it all. To that end, I've got to look over moving things to the new JCR website, like the new IM system, got to phase out Skype and introduce that, and like a pin map of like Durham. And like you put little pins like where all the welfare stuff is, so like if you want to go to like a gun clinic, you don't even really need to do properly, you just go on it, like stick this there, and you get it. I want to promote the anonymous online support system a bit more. I think not many people really know what it is, and it's pretty useful, so I want to get that out there a little bit more. Also move the monthly focus board, because our notes in the welfare room just isn't the best, because you don't see it unless you're going to drop in. So I spoke to Olivia about that as well, actually, and she said we had it potentially in the corridor by the JCR, which would be a more prominent position and probably a bit better. I want to see, I think this year the welfare team got a bit more involved in Fresh Week, and like went on a couple of days out with some of the corridors, and that's really good. And I want to continue that, so like if the team are at a loose end during the week, they go along, because it'd be nice for the freshers to like not see the welfare team as people only there for like drunken nights out. They're there for a whole range of things really. And also before welfare applications, I want to have a little like informal bar chat / talk, so people know what they're going for. And finally, I want to assist the welfare with Collingwood, so if one of our team had a problem with me, not there with, they could go over to Collingwood and be like, Ed's a prick. And I wouldn't have gotten for it, because I wasn't there. Yeah, those are my ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the candidate for male welfare officer? Yes, Mr. White.
Any ideas for any new campaigns?
I think we need to get the town more involved. I think it's too college based at the moment, which is how naturally would be colleges are based. And yeah, I think that's something that needs to happen. Maybe do some flyering potentially, but prominent areas. But yeah, we'll see.
Further questions? Yes, Mr.
Of course, you are both a welfare member and also a person in your own right. You know, you have your own activities, you do things that aren't welfare. To what extent do you believe that it's important to be able to project an image and will people be able to differentiate between your public persona and your private persona?
Yeah, I think it's obviously the public persona would be male welfare officer, and I think that that's something think people realise that, like, I know Mel Welfare is, like, the welfare team, they're going to go out and get drunk, because it's fun. And I think people recognise that, so I don't really see a problem per se in that at the moment.
Yes, Amy.
So not only are you a member of the team, but you're also a leader of a team. So how do you see that working together? Because you don't want to alienate yourself from the team, but you've also got to be in charge and you've got to tell them when stuff needs doing and deadlines and things.
I see it kind of like a first among equals kind of role, where like you're all on the same plane, like no one's above anyone, but you just kind of like make that final decision or whatever. And it's like I think you can set them and stuff. I think it's just kind of like lazy people being nice, and like, oh, something like do this, like, oh, like it'd be great if you do this, please do, or whatever. Like, just be nice about it, and that's the main thing.
Yes, Mr. White.
What's the hardest part of the job, not for the male welfare officer, but for you, Ed Noble?
I think at times I start from pretty bad case of breast and bit face. That can be an issue. Because it means it's hard to steer around there. The soft good will love to go. And that's the main issue. But
seriously?
Probably actually, yeah. I can be quite frowning. And maybe organisational things, but that's something I'm working on. If I write it down, I remember it. And I just need to write it down really. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I've completely gone blank.
Or would you like me to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me. I forgot.
Okay.
So when I was in the welfare team during Freshers Week, and when you were prepping, there was a kind of a big idea amongst the freshers that they should get each other well fed and they should get people so drunk that we had to look after them. You've already said like going into town and kind of engaging more in the days. Is there any other way you can think of that you can kind of get rid of that perception of the team, because that's ultimately not what it's completely for?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, could you just repeat that? Would you just like to repeat that?
Yeah. So how could you kind of eliminate the perception amongst freshers that the welfare team is just looking after drunk people as opposed to all the other facets that it has to it?
Brilliant, thank you, Lon. You go ahead.
As I said, I think the main thing is like, I think that came from the welfare team were only often seen looking after drunk people, so publicly they would like to be like, oh, that's all they do. I think by engaging with freshers a bit more, so like, I don't know if you're at a loose end one day, tag along with the corridor and chat to them, like people realise that that's not just what they're there for, and I think it's basically just improving the like having more of a profile when the team aren't, when the freshers aren't on the right side. I think that's the main thing.
Okay.
Remembered.
You remembered? Okay.
I remembered.
Go on, Amy.
So we get a lot of issues come up that cover a huge spectrum of things. So when you get one of those issues that are really nitty-gritty issues, how do you look after yourself in that situation?
I think I'm quite good at recognising when I get stressed out or irritable, and I think at that point I was like, it's like there's male and female welfare officers like oh, I'm a bit grumpy today, or not like, I wouldn't say like that. I'd be like pretty stressed out, had some bad stuff come up. Can I have a couple of days off, or whatever, like chill for a bit. And yeah, I think that'd be my response to that.
Okay. Yes, Mr. White.
So, nature of being on welfare, sometimes you have great weeks, nothing happens. Sometimes you have terrible weeks where everything seems to happen. Everything apart from your degree and everything else that you do and you enjoy doing. It's just welfare. Sometimes, therefore, you have to drop everything. How will you cope with that, given it's very stressful, and will you be able to just drop everything? Are you in an environment where you can just drop everything and give your full attention and support to someone potentially in that week?
Well, yeah, I think so. In terms of time management, the post I'm doing next year, it's the exact same as AJ. He's out 4 nights a week, so I think can't be too intense. And also, I think I wouldn't have a problem with having like hours of welfare rack up, because it's not something I regard as a chore or something. Like, I want to say regard as fun, that sounds a bit odd, but I don't see it as I don't see it as a chore, so that would be an issue for me.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no further questions, then can we have a big... you may begin now.
So hi, I'm Steve Tatlow. I thought I'd tell you a bit about myself and my experience with publicity, and then go on to tell you why I thought I'd make a good publicity officer. So at school I ran a small graphic design business called Clockwork Panda. I would make typography music videos such as these ones and sell them to overseas clients. Together with this, I always maintained a strong interest in art and design. These are a few of the creations that I've made over the years. At school I also was heavily involved in publicity. I made a lot of the posters for them, including this one for the Young Enterprise team, the Table Tennis League, and a few others. At Grey, I'm quite an active member of MediaCom. I recently designed the logo and several of the posters for Informal Ball. Together with this, I ran the first of a series of Photoshop workshops using this tutorial that I made. So firstly, if I was elected, I would like to update the calendar and email system by collaborating with the new website editor. I think that streamlining the calendar would improve the quality of publicity for college events, which would put less strain on the email system and put all the essential information in one place. Also, utilising social media, I intend to develop Grey's image and online presence. For example, by ensuring consistency in branding across the college, a cohesive image of the JCR can be established. If I was elected as publicity officer, I think that I could help MediaCom develop as a committee, and these are a few of my ideas for it. Early on in MediaCom, I realised that there are a lot of people with very good ideas and a lot of creativity, but they didn't necessarily have the tools to implement them. And after the workshop, within a few hours, there were people posting loads of posters with the tools that they learned during the workshop. So I think in the future, this is definitely the way forward. And hopefully, if it's possible, open it up to all JCR members. One of the big problems with this, however, was that not everyone had Photoshop, and for those of you who know anything about Adobe, it's very, very expensive. So the President and I were discussing the possibility of investing in a media laptop with all the necessary software installed so that people could use it whenever they wanted to. I think that by liaising regularly with the exec and members of other committees, we could avoid the media committee becoming a monopoly. And committees individually would be able to choose how they want their publicity done. So by choosing me as publicity officer, you'll be putting your trust in someone accessible, experienced, and dedicated to improving college publicity.
You may begin now.
Hi guys, I'm Ryan and I'm a second year French and Spanish student, and I would love to be your first ever publicity officer. I'm going to explain what the role is all about, my aims, and why you should vote for me. So first of all, what does the publicity officer do? Well, the publicity officer sits on the core exec and is in charge of running MediaCom, as well as liaising with the exec to publicise JCR events. They're also in charge of making a coherent publicity strategy and improving the visual image of Grey and its services. So what are my aims? Well, I have three key aims as publicity officer: communication, creativity, and consistency. Firstly, I would promote events and manage MediaCom by setting deadlines and making sure the committee is efficient and organised. I want to improve communication in Grey by developing branding to make JCR publicity very distinctive. I also want to expand the use of social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, for college events and services, and I want to continue to produce creative coverage of college events. I'll establish a newsletter, perhaps coinciding with the return of the bog standard, that promotes and covers events across college and provides an opportunity for keen journalists in the Grey community. I'm a very creative person myself. At Durham, I have directed 2 shows with the Ook, the theatre company, and I directed, shot, and edited the Frep video this year, the Simpsons themed one. And I also write and edit for the Modern Languages magazine. But I recognise also that many people in college are incredibly talented and passionate about publicity. I will be the one facilitating this by being the organising force behind MediaCom, so it can continue to produce amazing publicity. I'll also shoot videos introducing the new members of exec to help people get to know them. I would also work with the bar, services and fountains hall managers to help them improve their branding to draw in more people. I really want to encourage the expansion of MediaCom by holding regular skills exchange workshops to help people to learn and develop new skills or to discover a new one, as I did in Freshers Week. We should aim for high standards for all publicity produced, and so I would act as a point of quality control to check everything is produced and make sure it's effective and well made. I also want to work with the exec and MediaCom to create logos for services and committees to keep publicity very consistent. Finally, I want to create a media handbook containing guidelines, advice and policies to ensure all publicity is consistent. By doing this, I would ensure that excellent publicity is produced for many years to come. Finally, why should you choose me? Well, I'm a committed member of the great JCR. I know how it works and which areas can be made better. I was a FREP this year, and I realised that publicity needs to be improved as many freshers don't know what the events are until they arrive at the door. I've been publicity officer for my choir for the last year, setting up a new Twitter account and creating a new website. I was involved heavily in advertising for my 2 shows, designing posters and creating trailers. I think that what this role needs is someone organised, passionate, creative and decisive, and I believe I'm all of these things. It needs someone who will put down strong roots in MediaCom and allow it to grow in the future. My aims are achievable and necessary, and I think I will be perfect for your first publicity officer. Thank you for listening. I'd love to answer any questions.
Questions? The candidates for the publicity officer position. Yes, Mr. Gill.
You both talked about the activities you get involved in. How are you going to spread your time between these different activities?
So I am an art student. I have lots of free time. And I work incredibly well under pressure, as I've shown while directing a show. I actually threw myself straight in the deep end of my freshers year. A week after coming to university, I decided to assistant direct a show, and I still managed to get through my first month of university keeping up with my work. So I think having this extra pressure will enable me to better organise my time and actually make sure everything is efficient and well managed.
I think organisation is key to this. When I was at school, I was heavily involved in Young Enterprise, and I did a lot of posts and things for that. And although I was still heavily revising and everything, I was still able to produce the posters for the deadlines as well as everything else for the role. And I think that naturally I'm quite a well-organised person. So I think that as long as I kept track of everything that was going on at the exec meetings and I jotted it all down and make sure that I knew what I was doing, then it would be fine.
Good. There were more questions here. Mr. Hockeney.
A large part of the role is knowing what's going on in college so that you can publicise it effectively. Of course, that really helps if you're living in college, but of course you may not be. So how will you deal with that side of the role?
Well, I think that at the exec meetings, I think one of the reasons that this fits in the core exec is that I'll know everything that's going on in the college, as well as Facebook groups and emails and everything. So I think that as long as I know what's happening, then I'll be able to produce the relevant things and make sure that the groups know what they're doing in MediaCom.
So I am living out this year, but I live in Winnie Hill, which is really, really close to college. So it's really easy for me to come in, nip around, and I'm not afraid of going to talk to people, what they think about what MediaCom are doing. Also, MediaCom is a great resource because it's got a wide range of people in it, so there'll be a great way of getting in touch with what's happening in college. And also being on the core exec will mean that I'm more up to date with what's happening all around college and have more contact with everything that's happening here, although I might be a 10-minute walk away.
Any further questions from around the floor? Yes?
How can you better utilise the social media?
So one of the things I was thinking about is perhaps getting a Flickr account for the college so that we can put all of our photos on there instead of putting them on Facebook. Because Facebook is a great resource, but there's not many things you can do with the photos on Facebook. So if you have a Flickr account, you can kind of order them to be printed, so that might open up new avenues for students to be able to get their photos printed if they're particularly nice. Also, I want to keep things a lot more up to date, so the Twitter would be updating more regularly. We'd have sort of live feeds, and I would assign someone in MediaCom perhaps every month that could be assigned to updating social media so that people can get a good experience in doing that, and then it can be a fresh job for someone every term, so they keep the momentum up.
I think one of my big ideas was enhancing the email system, and I think that perhaps if Facebook was utilised perhaps slightly better, then people would be more up to date with things. If instead of having so many emails each week, I often lose track of everything. If it was all in one place on Facebook, I think that would definitely be the way forward for the college.
Yes, Courtney.
It's a bit of a technical Facebook question, but do you think Grey JCR as a Facebook kind of medium should function as a page or as a person?
I think that it should definitely be a page because it's made up of so many different people. And I think using my campaigning page, I noticed that there were lots of features which weren't actually available as a person using Facebook. So it tells you a lot of stats. It tells you how many people have viewed each post, which you wouldn't ordinarily get. And I think that it's better in terms of the actual image as a whole, putting the cover photo as something specifically for the page itself and the profile picture. So I think it's much better to be a page.
I would agree with that. I definitely also found that using my campaign page, there are so many different features that you can investigate and explore. I think having it as a page rather than a person fosters a sense of community. So if you're part of Grey College, you can go on the Grey College page, and it's nicer to have a page rather than it be a person. And it's probably also easier to hand over a page than it is to hand over an entire person kind of details.
When I say person, I just mean like
Yeah,
Grey social sector.
Yeah. Yes, Ben.
You both showed a strong preference towards social media. How do you see the JCR website interlinking with your role as
So, my preference for social media is I want to make sure that we use the best social media possible. So, for instance, whilst the presidential Snapchat is fun, I don't know if it's the best way to communicate. I do, however, think that Twitter and Facebook are excellent ways to communicate to college, which is one of my points. In terms of working with the website, I see the website as, yes, a resource where you can find out lots of information which would be updated regularly, but that needs to coincide with the information that's appearing on social media. You can also put things that are more current on social media, smaller things that have happened that maybe don't have a place on the website. So if you're tweeting, you can have a live Twitter feed from a JCR meeting, say, things like that, which really aren't appropriate to go on the website, in my opinion. But of course, I would definitely make sure that it is compatible with the website, and obviously the website has links to the pages and everything.
I think there's definitely a place for both of them, depending on the situation. But in terms of the website, I think that there should be a much greater emphasis on the calendar system, because I think that if more people were aware of the calendar and it was updated more regularly with more information on it, I think that's the best way possible for people to know what events are coming up and the details for them, instead of trawling through all the emails.
Mr. Crickmark, your question. It's been covered. Okay, Mr. Jones.
Obviously, it's a new role. So if you're looking back off your time with role, your handover, what's the one thing that's the case?
I think that the branding in JCR in general, I think, is a big thing that needs to change. I think that if we had a JCR logo, for example, a MediaCom logo, and there was a font that was used throughout everything, then I think that that's a much better way to go. Yeah.
I agree. I know that they've been looking into designing logos and choosing fonts for MediaCom, and I would love to continue that work. But for me, the one thing that I think I want to be able to look back on my time as publicity officer and say I've done is continue the great work that Caroline and Alice have already done by setting everything in stone and creating this media handbook full of guidelines, policies, advice. From my experience, from MediaCom's experience over the last year and a half, it will be by the end, so that whoever comes next for years to come can have a really useful and comprehensive resource to make sure that all publicity coming out of Grey is produced effectively, it's well produced, it's consistent, because I think that's really important to make good publicity. So that's the one thing I would choose.
Okay. Mr. Klein.
Would it be that you will just so focused on publicity and image and communication, how we communicate with our students? you're probably going to have to get what you want to happen, convince a lot of people to change how we currently do things. Have you got what it takes to change the way that the JCR currently communicates and make it better?
I would like to think that I'm persuasive enough when I need to be in order to change things. I think that we're at a point now where this role is so important to college, if college wants to continue to flourish and grow, that would be the thing I would push for, would be to say, well, look, we're in a modern age, we need to push for these means of communications to be the main sort of ways that we publicise ourselves, because that is the future and it's going to happen whether we like it or not.
I think that if the change is worthwhile, then people and committees will agree with this on their own. I don't think that it'll require much persuasion.
Okay, excellent, thank you. If there are no further questions, then I would like to move the candidates. Do you have a question? I'd like to move the candidates.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ellie Sagrott, a second-year sociologist. I currently hold the officer position of Vice Social Sec, so I'm a dedicated member of Social Camp. I'm the founder and president of Grey College Disney Society. I was a freshman this past summer and also an open day helper this past Easter holidays. I'm on Toasty Bar Farm, Cox for GCBC and Olivia next year. As current Vice Social Sec, I've had a real taste of what the role actually involves, having first-hand experience. I think a good example of this is last year's Halloween bar, where I got to play Social Sec for the day, as Sally was away, so left all responsibility with me. This meant, as well as my duties as Vice Social Sec prior to the day, I also had to do everything the Social Sec does on bar day, such as organising sensible clean-up and efficiently communicating with social camp, college staff, the ends companies, DJ, security and first aid to make sure all ran smoothly. I got amazing feedback from the bar by students and staff alike. I even got a book from Pete at the end of the night, which was a highlight. I think this experience, and also the experience of the years by Social Sec, makes me a strong candidate. As well as having good leadership skills, I'm also able to work well in a team. For example, over the summer, I worked as a runner for a corporate event in the style of a festival called Spark in the Park for the company MDA. In this, I had to work as a team with other runners, which required constant communication, listening to them as well as making sure you're listening to. If I got the role, I would not be shy of being hands-on and work with the rest of Social Camp as a team and not just delegating roles to people to do the hard work. I've got so many more examples of leading and participating in teams, like I was elected house captain at school, which I used to organise a sports day, swimming gala, hold auditions and rehearsals for Christmas play. In my manifesto, I speak about having more social events in college, such as bringing back themed bar nights, of which we had a few last year, and on speaking to Nikolai, she agrees that we need this sort of thing to bring livers in to the bar and nights that aren't the classic going out nights. A taste of this, what would go on in this, is themed drinks and nibbles, as well as games and ents, such as the photo booth like the one we had at Barfest with a camera. I would be open to theme suggestions, but starting one or begin with is Mexican. During Freshers Week, there's one bop at the end of the week. However, I'm speaking to George Royalty in Freshers who would like at least 2 bops in the week as is similar style to Collingwood's Freshers Week. I would have involvement in planning these bops and a theme for the additional one being alphabet bop. So freshers would come with something that their names begin with the first letter of their first name. I think I would like to describe that, sorry. This again is to attract freshers to come to the college bar more and also introduce them to bops so they know like they're a big part of college life early on. So finally, I believe I have the leadership but also teamworking skills, dedication and right amount of OCD and craziness to be a social set that puts events on that Gray's proud of. Thank you.
I will knock on the desk when you have 30 seconds left. You may.
Hey Gray, my name is Kristina, and although I was social secretary for a full 2 weeks last year, I'm hoping to maintain the position for the entire 2015-2016 academic year. So, as I'm a second year, I've been on SOCCOM for 2 years now, and so I understand the amount of commitment and stress and just organization that goes into planning an event like any of the college events. I fully understand the importance of pizza, potato wedges, garlic bread, all of it that are necessary in learning students to stay at college after a ball around 2 a.m. in order to just scrub the dining hall floors. But in all seriousness, I really do love planning and attending social events, although I could do without the hangovers the next day. I believe I'm organized and enthusiastic, and I think this would be reflected in the social calendar that I would organize. My first aim would be to make the period after exams even more incredible than it already ideas. I think this is just a period of college bonding and like permanent drunkenness, and I just want to take advantage of this and just organize more things. So instead of having more events in college, because I feel like sometimes those aren't really well attended, I'd rather have great college nights out where great college students would be able to get like discount entry and like drink deals at our favorite clubs. So haven't spoken to any like club promoters, but maybe this would be like for entry to Clue, like cheaper Woodgates, who knows, right? But I think that would be a lot of fun. I think also doing something for the finalists, like maybe a boat cruise or something like Sally had done, like a wine and cheese would be really great because it's just a celebratory time for them. And then also just having a similar event for new livers in for next year, because there's a lot of them, and just for them to get to know each other. And then obviously just holding like amazing versions of the bots and from the wall that are going to be happening next year. So yeah, hopefully it's third time lucky for me. Yeah, thank you.
Big round of applause, please. Again, I will take a collective of 10 minutes of questioning. Time starts now. Are there any questions for the candidates in front of you? My dear JCR. Yes, Mr. P. As an independent charity, everything we do has to be in line with our charitable objectives unless it's being run as a fundraiser. While some social events are run as fundraisers, some are also run as charitable events. How will you ensure that everything complies with our charitable objectives?
Well, first of all, I'd advertise it as like, it was Halloween Bot was run as a charity event, wasn't it? But I don't think it was as well advertised. So, working with the new elected publicity officer, I'd ask them to put it maybe on the posters and the things that we use to advertise, like the Facebook groups that we use to advertise the box. It is a charity event, but we are the charity, because I think that's a place of confusion for quite a lot of people. They don't understand that when it's a charity event, it's actually raising money for us and it's going back into the JCR. So I just think to widely advertise that when it is, a charity event, raising money for us.
Honestly, I've been on SOCCON for like 2 years. I didn't even know that some of the things were charity events. So I've been saying that original and just say that I guess just putting them on the posters, things like that, just to make it more clear. And maybe that will help turn out as well. Who knows?
But that is a hard question. Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Starting us off on the roll. Yes, Mr. Klein.
So a lot of the events that social fund put on are primarily drinking events, like that's what a lot of the basis is on. Is there any room to change that, or to do slightly different events? Would you go to it? What's it take?
I feel like at all of our events you can emphasize that they're also like non-alcoholic beverages. It doesn't necessarily have to be a drinking thing. I've been to balls so I haven't drunk anything and just still have a good time, so you can emphasize that. And I don't know, I feel like there are other committees and other societies that sort of take the role of like non-drinking social events. So I don't know, like film nights, we've got a film club. ArtsCom does like other kinds of events that would be like artistic. So I feel like, I don't think there was any need for other events.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was speaking to Nikolai about the events in college, other events that we could do, and quite a lot of them that are alcoholic. She was like saying we can't do them, and I was trying to think of other things that we could do. But again, I was thinking like the sort of band night idea that arts can do, but we can't do that because arts can do it. And I think with social con it is about being sociable and sort of like partying. And yeah, there are, I mean, I've been to box and I've not drunk because I don't trust myself to not be sober for clean up. But like I do, it is hard, it's a hard one to tackle that. I think that social com is primarily about putting on box and, doing things like social events. I think that's just in the nature of social com. I think that's just, yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So we across the year we have kind of traditional bots that we have. There's like what's become Super Bot, Army Bot, Halloween Bot. Irrespective of that, if you could have like a dream theme for a bot, what would it be?
I have quite a few ideas in the works for Informal Ball already, but obviously I couldn't say them right now because, but like I said, Alphabet Bot, I spoke about that in my social secretary Husts. and that's unfortunately not been implemented this year, but I do hope to implement it in Freshers Week next year. I really think there would be just such a broad spectrum, and I think that the decorations would be absolutely insane for that. But yeah, I have got a few ideas, but like I said, I couldn't really say, but yeah, if I get posted in touch wood, informal ball would be sick.
I like the idea of having either a jungle ball, best of British ball, so like, I don't know, like Collins, like British.
Okay, so I remember at the beginning of the year, SOTCOM was very, very small. I've been there at 2 in the morning when we're moving all the tables back in, and that is not a job you can do with a small committee. You need a lot of volunteers and a lot of people just to move everything and organise stuff. How do you intend to sort of create a strong committee who are willing to not only turn up to set stuff up, but also still be around and still be sober enough to put stuff back at the end of the night? How do you intend to create a committee which will do this and is not just left to a couple of people?
Yes, so Sam started the streamlining of social club, which is basically, so there'll be the social stuff at the top and then it'll split sort of like what John did with AppsCom. So you'll have the different strands of things we've done, so there'll be like an informal ball committee, a committee for box, I think fashion show will be under there, and all sorts of different social events will be under that umbrella of SOTCOM. So I think it'll be easier to recruit people, sort of, if they're engaged in one event. If you're like, oh yeah, come be an informal ball com, and then it's only that one night that they only have to do it open box, it's only a few nights that they have to do it, and it's not that big of a commitment, you know what I mean, rather than saying, well, you will do all this and all this, and you'll stay for clean and every single one. I think it's quite an intimidating thing, especially to a fresher. I think they're a bit like, well, no, I want to enjoy the box. Whereas if they're not, so like if they're associated with just different things, they'll be more inclined. I also think, again, working with the Youth Sports and Societies rep, just making people more aware of, like social common and the perks afterwards. Like, I don't think it's very well advertised that we get pizza after clean up, and that it's really nice when you've done it, the sense of pride that you get afterwards. And I do think it is, it's a really rewarding thing at the end to just, sort of sit back and see, everyone's had a good night, everything's been done, and you just finished cleaning up, and it's just, yeah. But I do think that there are, like you said, disadvantages, but I think we just need to make those as good as we can.
I think this is a bit of a cheap hit, but for SOTCOM members to, people just don't know the perks that we actually do get. Like this year, we just got money off of our IB tickets, we get bulbs for free, things like that people, it's kind of like a awful way to lure people in, but it does work, right? So, if people do know that they're getting pizza, people do know that they're going to get, free, or not free tickets, but, reduced price tickets to IB, I feel like they're going to be more keen to be part of the committee, so I think just advertising that more at the Sports and Societies and things like that would be useful in getting more members.
Okay, thank you. Well, that can
if somebody actually came up to you and asked, what has the Students' Union done for us, what would you tell them?
Well, I think the venue itself is really good. So I've been to numerous events inside Diamond House, and I don't think a lot of people know that you can actually rent rooms in Diamond House in order to have your events there. So I think that's a definite positive. In other ways, I think, well, I didn't want to speak from a point of view of a student. I think that, not much else really, unfortunately, and I think that message should be delivered to them. From the point of view of someone who was in part of the society, it can be very helpful, but again, there are some issues.
So at the moment, what I would point to is the DSU's website. DSU are currently trying to run a positive publicity campaign, where they actually have a lovely list of all the things that they've actioned upon the students have suggested that is on their website. I suggest you go and check it out if you actually want to know what they are trying to do. They're having some successes posted up around the DSU at the moment, and those are the kind of campaigns that the DSU are running in the DSU, but need to be brought into college. So yes, there are examples on the website, but it's just making sure they actually get in here.
Thank you. Mr. Hockley, one of the roles of the Senior Students' Union rep is to represent the views of your constituents, of the people of Grey. This may well be an occasion in contrary to your personal beliefs. So how would you deal with representing the views which you may not personally hold?
I'm fine with that because when I go to the students' union and say that the majority of Grey College think so and so, I'm not saying that I, Nikolai Kravets, think so and so. And if the majority of people do think that, and do think that something should be done on a certain issue, for example, then I can't really, go there and say, well, actually, it's contrary to that, just because I'm in the position to go there and talk to them.
So part of this is obviously, if you're attending assembly regularly, you're in a position that the vast majority of students at Durham are not in. And that may, having that level of information, extra information above the normal student population, may influence your view on a particular issue. And make you feel in a different way to the body of the student society. It's then your case to argue your view through Union RepsCon and try and convince people. If you feel like you have a very good reason why your views may be different to the rest of the colleges. If you can't convince people, at the end of the day, the job is to represent the JCR as a whole view, so you have to go down with the view of the JCR, unless it is on a point of personal conscience. Some stuff does come from the JCR, which I think, ethically, at the end of the day, you might just have to go, actually, I believe this and I would feel like I would be compromising my values if I voted against it.
Mr. Crickmore.
So, as touched upon there, you both have quite strongly held personal political views. So you're an absolute National European Conservative Society. When you're voting at Assembly, you are voting not just for what's in the interest of Grey, but what is in interest of the university students as a whole. And that may conflict with what you personally believe. How will you be sure that you can look at something completely objectively and say, I'm aware of my own personal biases here, and I can justify to the JCR what I've made this decision based on?
Yeah, so again, I have this problem through things like the PPE Society organising conferences. I have a very particular type of speaker who I would be wanting to get booked. I have a very particular type of format for debates I want to be seeing. But at the end of the day, you have to realise that you're working for people. You're trying to ensure that you're providing what the majority want. And you're a conduit for that view. And it's about expressing that view eloquently, even if it's not necessarily your own view. And that's something that I will struggle with, but something I'm capable of doing. And, yeah.
Yeah, I largely agree. I just wanted to highlight that DUCA is not party affiliated, so it wasn't a political organisation in terms of supporting the party manifesto. It was just a group of people who had certain right-wing views in terms of economics, etc. But I've stepped down now, so I don't think there will be any conflict of interest in that sense. Obviously, I will try and overcome my personal beliefs. I don't know to the extent to which that is possible, but I think all of us have certain views and beliefs, and we're not perfect. I'll try to do my best, but there we go.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Mr. West.
So as a college, Grey is very, very independent, and we could exist on our own if we wanted to. So why do you think it's important that we maintain this link with the students' union?
It's what I said at the beginning of my house. There is parent union. The idea of a union, okay, it's not a workers' union, but the idea of a union comes from that point, collective bargaining, that you as a body of 16,000 students at one of the most prestigious universities in Great Britain, a university where, when things happen here, it gets picked up in the national press. If that body can come together, of 16,000 students can come together and actively go, we want this. We are not happy with the fact that there are no rains around the riverbanks, and taking a very up-to-date example. That is where the power lies. And Grey as a college, yes, it's got 1,000 people in, but that existing on your own, separating yourself out, exponentially drops away the amount of power and influence you can have. The whole point is that there are 48 people in the assembly, representing 16,000 students, voting on things that are important to every single one of us, and just making sure that our voice is heard. Absolutely. Because there are people who don't necessarily, in this university, who don't necessarily have your interests, your best interests at heart. And just making sure that, as a group, we have our voices heard.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the DSC is a fantastic platform for a lot of things. Although I might have come across as somewhat critical of this organisation, I still believe that it is one of those organisations which makes the student community of Durham run not only on a college basis, but just as one community Durham University. I mean, I haven't really heard anyone before argue that we should become disaffiliated with the DSC, so I don't think anyone will support that motion. So I think that proves that it's an amazing platform.
Are there any further questions before I hand